Definitely more like louder and more clear.
Okay, then I'll just keep them on in.
I think.
One day. Yeah.
It's definitely louder.
How is well, actually, if the mic's on this side. Well, okay, how's that? Is that worse or better?
That's good.
Okay, or how's that?
I don't know.
No change?
Kind of the same. Really not too different.
Okay. Guess I'll just. And you tell me at any point if if it starts messing up.
Yeah, and same with me. I mean, like I said, I'm not. I've got a good old hot spot, so we'll see how my I haven't had issues with it yet, but whatever. If things happen, we can just edit them out.
Exactly. We'll be good.
But yeah, today was
Editing to the rescue.
It was an intense day of content creation, but
okay.
I had a full day of. So my husband works at 3:50. Well, gets up at 3:50 in the morning to go to work. So I was like naturally up at 4:30 this morning. So I'm like, well, I'm up. Might as well get to getting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I created a whole social media training for my students, and then I had to do a YouTube video today and mow the lawn. It's like a little mental break, and then just got ready for this, and probably had 100 other things that I did, but yeah. How was your day?
Awesome. Oh, well, I'm glad you had a good, productive day, I'll say, and hopefully, chipped away at your mountain of stuff to do.
Of course.
But it was good. I worked. It wasn't too bad. Middle of the week, it kind of slows down. It's obviously not a Monday for sure, but yeah. So I got some nice coffee going, and we'll be good.
Yeah, I had a half a cup at like maybe 4 o'clock. I was like, I need a little something because I'm such an introvert. So like, and I don't know if people like fully understand introverts, and I don't know if you're like introverted or extroverted, but I'm like the introverted extrovert where I need extroverted energy to energize myself up, but I can only handle so much of it. So like all day long, like putting out content for like social media trainings and videos, and then having to edit a YouTube video. It's like, whew. So yeah, I had my coffee at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I can hear you on that. Honestly, I feel like it comes in almost waves, right? And you definitely kind of need that extroverted energy to pull you out, because like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'll just like stay home or something, and I'm like, no, and then you always feel better after, but it's just that kind of that first step, right? It's always the hardest.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a total homebody, so yeah, that's why I love Rad Chick Society, because I think it forces you to communicate with different people and meet different people and get out there and do things, and that is what a roundabout intro here. What do you call that? But yeah,
full circle.
That's what I love about the community, and I am so excited to be bringing this back to life with you. So I feel the need, and I know everybody just lives their own lives and people don't really care. Like, no one's sitting here thinking about, oh, where's Jess? I wonder where Rad Chick Society went. But like, I feel the need to explain the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I think it's wild that it's been 2 years, but so like Rad Chick Society was like up and running. We were doing awesome. We were having so much fun traveling the country, which I pretty much still do, but meeting women all over the place. And then in May of 2021, my husband and I tried recording an episode probably like 4 times and just bawled my eyes out every time. But yeah, so my husband had a really bad motocross accident in May of 2021. And it was one of those accidents that like, oh, no big deal, because he like walked away from it because he's a psycho. But he was going off a triple and got hit in the air from behind. Somebody hit his rear tire / swing arm. His bike ended up in pieces, like miles away from where he landed. So anyways, he ended up breaking 5 ribs, like concussion, like definitely it's been like definitely broke his like spine vertebrae. Whatever. It was just not a pretty accident. And it's not even like it's like everything comes full circle in life when like something happens. So it's like, yeah, he walked away like no big deal. Oh yeah, I remember that accident, you know, but in reality in like your actual life, it's like, oh my God, like I can't ride right now. Like, what if I get hurt? You know, now we've got all these medical bills. Like, he's out of work. I'm trying to transition out of my career as a waitress and do something else. And it's just like, it was just like everything in life comes to a halt and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was just like a whole necessary restructure in life that like in an instant. So it's like not even so much just the accident, but it's the fear of you then getting hurt and then who's going to pay the bills? Like we need income and we've got medical bills and everything just happened. And then you're trying to make a transition in life as it is and trying to get ahead and then so it ended up just being a whirlwind of 2 years and just trying to re-find ourselves and you know, build the confidence to get back on the bike. And the silliest thing happened, like when he's like on the couch unable to move, I step out of the camper and I sprained my ankle. And it was like in that moment I'm like, all right, so things can happen at any point in time. So like, why am I stressing over this? So yeah, I spent like the next 2 years just trying to get life back in order while trying to be financially stable. And yeah, I just had to put the community on the back burner in order to like get somewhere. And it happened out of nowhere. And I always felt so bad and I wanted to be back. But like, maybe you have like your own story. I know we've talked about this, but like I couldn't even show up on social media. Like I felt like I was forcing myself to post on a story. And it wasn't until I started traveling this winter back in like November that I was like, felt like myself again. And I'm like, it took forever and it was wild.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm glad he's better now. I'm glad that, you know, life has really come back to, you know, what it used to be, right? In a sense. I feel like, you know, with something like that, first of all, you're put in a situation that you've never experienced before. 2, you're now thinking thoughts that are different than you've ever thought before. And that itself, those 2 points can really change your life. And, you know, I also congratulate to both of you guys for being able to push through and then come out on the other side and still want to ride because, I mean, hey, I've been through my fair share of injuries and it takes a lot. It takes a lot to come back to, especially what we do, right? We are working with such a dangerous sport as it is. So like you said, you know, spraining your ankle coming out of the camper, you're like, okay, well,
I could have done that doing something fun.
Yeah. I mean, but hey, I mean, I'll say even one of my injuries, I could have probably tripped over a curb. A dog could have taken me out and I could have torn everything in my knee. But instead it happened riding dirt bike. So, you know, if we choose to let these risks or injuries define us, you know, we will not continue to evolve. So I do want to congratulate both of you guys for being able to persevere and for you to come back because, you know, a 2-year break, like you said, you know, really finding yourself again, it's scary, it's intimidating, and, you know, taking that first step forward is so powerful. So I do congratulate you so much.
Yeah, I mean, he was back on the bike, you know, it's the day
of course,
8 weeks or something, but you know, he's had accidents, but major accidents before, but not since, I mean, we've been married for a long time, like I lose track of time, 14 years this year, but like I haven't had a major accident since being together. But it's different when you're together and someone's relying on you. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then for me, it was just like showing up here felt like total imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like doing everything to push through it. We did a Rad Chicks event here at my farm, and we had I think like 15 women show up, and it was like so amazing. We had so much fun, and the community was like, I need this. I need this back in my life. And then business got crazy, running 2 businesses, and then you come into the picture. So Jen and I have been talking for a bit, just back and forth, really about just I don't know, just business, just life, like future goals. I don't know, just general deep things. And then she starts talking about this idea of wanting to maybe do something on the internet and something in, with dirt bikes or mountain bikes or BMX. And I was like, oh, is this like the blessing I've been asking for? So we got to talking, and it was just like, you guys are going to love her. Like, if you don't know her yet, you're going to like fall in love with her, but she is like the ultimate addition to this community. So I don't want to like put you on the spot, but like tell us more about you and your background.
Yeah. It's been crazy. I'll say, quite the experience so far. So rewind, full circle, my background, I first started with horses. So full-time training, competing, teaching. I got to travel the East Coast, and it was super fun. I got to work with some awesome trainers and, gain experience, live away from home. And you learn a lot about yourself really quick.
Yeah. When did you start riding?
Good question. I think I was maybe like 5th grade, 6th grade, maybe. So like not so young, but kind of middle, right?
Yeah.
So that's when I started.
Like the door open and there's like fruit flies or something flying in. But there's so many women like that transition into dirt bikes because they were horseback riders, and I'm one too. I started riding when I was 6, and it's like so many women, and I think it naturally translates to dirt bikes. But
yes, for sure. I really think, one, we're working with live animals, right? So we're like, well, if we can deal with these, we can deal with the bike, right? In some parts. Yes. I will say, obviously there are some differences, between working with a brain to a motor, for sure. But yeah, so right out of high school, I actually was like, peace out, see you later. And I started traveling, and yeah, so I loved every single bit of it. But there was also things, that come with the but to it. I mean, I love the experiences. I was grateful because it really molded me who I was. It put me in situations that I had to figure things out. So you really have to think on your toes, and being around an amazing community, right? Like just like Rad Chicks. And this is really where I think this transition really fits in such a amazing way. So with horses, being around amazing people, you have this village, you have this support group, the energy with it, it's powerful. And that was kind of the biggest thing that I lost when I chose to pivot. My pivot was really just burnout, right? The costs, the demands, and it really never ends. And I felt like on one part, I was okay with juggling some of it. On the other part, kind of, I felt like there was always something else. And I craved more freedom. And the one thing about bikes is we can put them in the garage and they stay there. You don't have to feed them. You don't have to take care of them. And that was one thing with horses, it's 24/7 and it never shuts off. So I chose to step away, and I have really learned about myself and finding myself again, because it was a huge part of my life. It was what I did 7 days a week, and kind of what I thought would be what I would continue with. But I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for that experience because I feel like it really molded me, right? Between pushing yourself past boundaries. There are times on my bike or BMX, we were working on something at the skate park, and I was just like, okay, I can do this. But I feel like having that, like, I don't know, I want to call it like gusto or something. I don't know. Like you kind of have like a little oomph in you where you can. So you continue to try. So I don't know. I feel like it pushed me to take more risks or so. So yeah, so I'm now transitioning fully into this and just grateful for the opportunity you're giving me. And really want to just inspire women and bring this community back to life and, maybe start eventually do some events to bring women together. And yeah, so I think this next chapter is going to be a really good one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I started dirt biking kind of for the same reason.
Okay.
I had horses. So I got my first horse of my own because I was never allowed to have a horse. Got my first horse of my own when I was 18 because I wasn't allowed to have one until I could fully pay for it and take care of it. So I had leased most of my younger high school days, and then finally got my own horse. And of course, you're 18, you don't really have money for one. So what do? You adopt the most free one that you can possibly get. So I ended up with a thoroughbred who was a little wild, but I always wanted, a 16-1 and horse that I could do something with. So I ended up with him and then adopted another one at the same time. My cousin kind of adopted her and kept her at our farm, and they were best buds. And then it just kept growing because she passed away, the horse, not my cousin. She passed away, so then needed to transition my horse elsewhere. Ended up finally meeting my husband. We had land. Anyways, ended up with 4 horses and too many donkeys up here. I think 6 horses at one point. And then my horse passed away in 2013. And it's just like, what now? Like I went a couple years, we traveled, and then I was just like, I need some sort of challenge in my life. Like like horseback riding is definitely like most things, it's a thing of its own, but it definitely creates that challenge, and it's never the same. Your ride is never the same. It's always something. So I was just like, all right, I don't know. I want to ride a bike. But I think I just want to learn to ride a bike. My husband had bought me a TTR 125 maybe a year or two prior. But I'd never really ridden, I rode it around the farm, whatever. But I was like, I want to actually learn to ride it, I think. And it's just that once that started, then I was super insecure about doing it. Okay. I'm around just pro riders. I'm at the track with just people that have been riding their entire life. My husband's qualified for nationals, people that know what they're doing. And I'm just this little girl just trying to get out on the kids' track. And I was so intimidated. And I was like, there's no way I'm the only person that's intimidated. And that's kind of where Rad Chick Society developed, was just putting those insecurities out there and just talking about it, and then just getting myself and more women just comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then it grew into something amazing with a really tight-knit community of people all over the country. I say tight-knit, but it's a nationwide tight-knit, which is awesome. And I think we're gonna be able to bring what it was and then so much more to the community. I'm really excited.
Oh my gosh, I know. I think that's one thing starting, right? It's transitioning as well. So my fiance now, riding his whole life, right? He gets on the bike, and his first lap, if that could be what I finish my riding career at, I will be happy with it. I will be very happy with life. It just comes so natural to him, and he's been doing it pretty much, I guess, his entire life, you'd pretty much say. So for that, it definitely was intimidating, right? Just kind of being that beginner and tipping over 5 million times, and by the time you pick up the bike and you're halfway around the track, you're like, I have to do another lap. So, the beginning, I feel of really allowing that learning curve to be fun, because if you do not, it it definitely, you might not continue, and we definitely don't want that. So um I feel like in the Northeast too, there's an amazing group of lady riders. Like there's a lot of women in the Northeast, I feel like, that are riding. And when we moved to North Carolina, meeting all new people, it definitely was different not being around, say, more beginners, or also just having that little bit of energy of girls kind of pushing you and being able to ride with them, rather than kind of just, riding alone, during practice, because you're riding with kids because you're a little slow. All is well, but it's all still fun. But I definitely think, the people make it the best.
Yeah. And just getting out there and knowing that you're not the only one, just makes it that much easier.
Exactly. Because we all have to start. Exactly. We all have to start somewhere. So rather than criticizing each other, it's, we got to continue to uplift them and continue to say, hey, keep going, because before you know it, that person that you're looking at and going, I want to be like them, well, give yourself a couple of years and it comes.
Yeah. And I think that's also where you're going to bring a great dynamic to one aspect of the women here. And I will bring a dynamic to the other aspect of women, because I have come to the A-OK of like, I'm just here to ride. I'm not really trying to get faster. I went and I bought a KTM 150. XCW. Oh my gosh. I'm like, what do you want?
Okay.
So yeah, last year I went and bought, or 2 years ago, I lose track of time. I wanted to get faster. I wanted to advance. I have been riding a Honda CRF 250F. So it's a trail bike. It's heavy, but it's like a safe big little bike. And I was like, all right, I want something lighter. I want something that can actually move and doesn't take so much work. Isn't so heavy. So yeah, I went and bought a KTM 150 XCW. Just really debating back and forth of, do I go 125? Do I go 250? And a few people have said, oh, the 150, you're going to love it. It was very intimidating. It was very tall. It was very fast, very snappy. And I tried my best to just be confident on it and just ride it. And like, it's going to be fine. You're going to get better. And I was just like, no, like, I'm actually good. I think I'm good. And I ended up just keeping my 250F and just riding that. And that's where I'm at. And I'm just like, you know what? I just want to ride. I just want to keep it safe. I want to keep it on two wheels. And I just want to have fun. And I think you having maybe the desire and the competitive edge within yourself to maybe want to progress more, and me being like, yeah, I'm just here for the good times. I think we'll be like a perfect balance for everybody.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, the root cause of everything is fun, right? The minute that it starts becoming a chore or, not fun, right? It definitely changes the game itself. So I will say, yes, you are right. I definitely have a competitive edge to me. I definitely will try to push past boundaries. But hey, right, we have to ride our own ride. And that's the amazing part of the community, where we can have a plethora of different riders, and, also from dirt bikes to BMX to, mountain bike and everything in between. I mean, I think, there's a level for everybody, and everybody's ride is different. And, it's all about each person's journey, and I'm totally about it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, you do all three as well.
I do.
Yeah. So Jen she mountain bikes, downhill mountain bikes, dirt bikes, and BMX. So that's like awesome.
Yeah.
I do it all too on the smaller, more basic scales, but I still, getting out there and getting in the community and all aspects is like really cool to have that experience.
Exactly. And I mean, I think there's so many different levels, right? Because even if we talk about, like, let's say dirt bikes, right? You can go ride moto, or you can go ride woods, and you're not hitting, say, any jumps. And I feel like that's where, it's so versatile. There's so many different levels. I mean, you go into BMX, you have pump track, right? That you're not even hitting jumps. So I think it's really cool like that there is both. Cause I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. There are times where I want to hit the big table and I'm like, maybe next time, maybe next time. So there's a time and place, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's gonna be cool just having the dynamic experiences on both ends. But yeah, I feel like I just wanted to have this intro podcast and just be like, hey, this is where I've been. This is what's been happening, and reintroduce you to the community, or introduce you to the community. And yeah, do you have anything else you'd love to talk about in the moment, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, going kind of back to us chatting, right? Like you and I both started talking through social media. That's how we both connected. And as far as I know, we did first connect through Rad Chick Society. And I think that really is the power of the internet and so many different ways, is that you can gain these relationships and these connections with people from, right, all over the world, from our houses, or when we're traveling or doing whatever. So I'm really excited for this, like I said, this opportunity, but also just to bring more women together and show them too, like they can do this. Or if they're having those thoughts of, can I, or imposter syndrome, I think sometimes I think there's a line, right? There's a line of pushing yourself past those boundaries, and maybe sometimes those mental blocks that we create for ourselves. And also, listening to ourselves and what, we want to be doing, right? What lights our soul on fire. So
yes, like the authenticity. That was like my word of the year when I was like in the commotion of life after my husband's accident. And I think I noticed just so many women in that time period, like women that I was connecting with on the regular basis through the community, going through life changes. Most of them, well, I can't even say most of them. A lot of different life changes. People losing spouses. So women losing spouses, women having babies, women going through accidents. Like I have seen everyone go through major life changes. And not to say that everyone's had a major life change or anything has to be crazy dramatic, but and learning how to move past that is different. I can't say it's easy. I can't say it's hard. It is just a whole new navigation to getting through life. And I think it really does come back to authenticity, and at what point is it right to make that shift or continue living the way you were living? Or is it okay to, accepting that, hey, life changes and this is the new chapter and this is where we're at. And it's, just authenticity, figuring out who you are again.
And I think, also if, talking about life changes, right? Big or small, between responsibilities, financial as well. If your partner, whatever that might be, that you do have to maybe support them, everybody's life might look a little bit different, where they might be going through something completely different, but in, that connected, you actually are very similar. So I think also, getting older, those responsibilities and the thoughts as well. It's like, I think there's a line, right? Because you can let things define you, or you can let them, mold you to grow as a person, right? And then continue to push past, I think, so I definitely think there's a line. And it can be hard. It really, really mentally, physically, it's a lot. And, action sports itself, if you're going through stuff on we'll say, the back end, on the front end, how can you, be able to focus for that type of event, or, so I totally hear you on that.
And getting older is definitely weird because, so how old are you?
27. I will be
27, yeah.
28 in a month, pretty much.
So Man, when I was 28, way back when. So yeah, we have, as well as different experiences and different goals with the sports that we do. We have a good age gap. So how old am I? I'm 38. I have to think about that sometimes. Yeah, so I'm 38 and I'm going to be 39 this year. And the it's weird because so I don't have children. I don't have plans to have children. So it definitely shapes your mind differently when you feel like you're supposed to be growing up. You feel like you're supposed to be doing these things and having these things in order. And my husband is 9 years older than me. So that's a bigger age gap. But it really, like, you live your life the way you enjoy living it. But then you have these pressures of like, this is what you should be doing. You really need to start thinking about this. Like, you really should quit riding dirt bikes. You know, you got responsibilities now. And it's like, but do I?
Exactly.
Do I? And it's like, it's silly, but it's like, it's something we've really been questioning, because the way that we live our lives is we live it. Like, obviously we ride, we travel half the year. We're like basically full-time snowbirds, and anyone that we come across that has it together, that's pretty well off, they're just like, you guys are doing it right. But then you get in this like mind, you know,
for
fuck.
sure.
And you're like, am I doing it right? But everyone else is doing this. Should I be doing that? And I think these sports are the same thing, because people that aren't in them don't get it. They don't understand the risk or the joy or the, well, what else am I going to do with my life? Like, and whether it's on the basic mild end or the extreme end, like, it's kind of like you said, where you are currently, you move to a community of people who just aren't quite like you. And it's people that aren't quite into moto, into dirt bikes, into BMX, into, you know, they just don't quite get it. And it really can impact the way that you think. And just coming back to authenticity, it's like, all right, what truly does matter to me? What are my goals? Am I still moving towards my goals by doing this? You know, and just really getting clear, especially as you get older. Like, I didn't even start traveling. We moved out of our house, I think I was 30 or 31. We decided to move out of our house, our custom built house that we built and lived in for 7 years. And it's crazy how much life has changed. And just in my 30s, how I'm still figuring out like who I really am. Without outside influences of like, who am I really?
You know, movement is lotion, right? Like, seriously, you look at older people and they're walking around, you know, they're playing pickleball, they're golfing, right? Like, whatever it might be, but they don't look their age. And, you know, honestly, I've seen some older people that they don't exercise, they don't move, they don't do anything, and they look older, right? I think the status quo of, okay, you know, buy the house, you know, get the job, cool, right? Like, is that living? Because that might be to somebody, but that's not to us. And, you know, I feel like that's where, yeah, it's easy for people to get into, you know, your head, you know, with their opinions, or, you know, not yours, but right, like, in general, their opinions of, oh, well, this is how you should be living your life. And, you know, but it really just comes down to, I think, happiness, right? Because living a successful life might look different to somebody else. That might be, you know, on Wall Street. Not for me, right? Not for you, but for somebody else. And for us to be able to live, to experience, I think that's what we feel is living. And I mean, I think it's important to not be defined by others and be defined only by you. And you continue to rediscover yourself, right? It doesn't stop. I mean, when I was, let's rewind to 18 to now, you know, coming to be 28, like, holy moly, the amount that I have learned, I've grown, the person, like, it's crazy, right? Like you really think you have things figured out, and then 5 years goes by, and you're like, okay. So I think, continuing to evolve and level up as a person is so powerful, and living life on your terms and riding your own ride.
Yeah. And I think it's harder to do the more that you're consumed with social media. I noticed this winter. I'm like,
Mhm.
I think I eventually just like disappeared from any scrolling because
Yeah.
everyone was like, you need to do this. You should be making $100,000 a day. Like, you need
Mhm.
to wear these Levi's. You need to order this, these shirts and these pants. And I was just like,
Mhm.
holy moly. Like, it kind of got overwhelming of like, it can get in your head so easily and so quickly of like, oh my gosh, I'm not
Mhm.
dressing good enough. I definitely need to do that, or I need to do this, or maybe I should want the house. Maybe I do need to just focus on a career. Like,
Mhm.
it is crazy, and I don't feel that I'm like a person that's easily influenced. I feel like I can
Mhm.
be pretty clear on my own thoughts, but it was definitely like impacting my thoughts, and I was like, okay, I need to shut this out and just
Mhm.
like focus on what actually matters to me. Like, do I actually feel good? Do I actually
Mhm.
feel energized? Do I feel confident in the way I look, in the way I dress? Like, and I feel like
Mhm.
if you don't, then make some changes. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to try new things. Sometimes it's not like
Mhm.
you don't automatically know. And this is one thing I've definitely experienced. I see a lot of people make comments when I talk in my stories or create posts around my past where
Mm.
they'll be like, oh my gosh, have you like done it all? And I'm like, I've done a lot, like job wise and, experience wise and travel wise. And it's like, but I think that's necessary in life is sometimes you have to test different waters.
Yeah.
Like, and it can be on little things like, oh, I lived in Costa Rica for a bit and just went with, living in a van, and I was living a really minimal
Mhm.
lifestyle, and I wasn't wearing makeup and just
Mhm.
wasn't really dressing like anything fancy. And I
Yeah.
did it for a bit, and then I'm like, this just doesn't feel like me. Like, I don't feel like myself. And it can be
Mhm.
on like those little levels, or it can be as extreme as like trying new careers or trying new whatever, living in a house, not living in a house. Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
think life, I've always said this, it's just a big game of like experience, like trial and error.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And
I
do you ever figure it out? I don't think you ever figure it out. Like, figuring it out is just a long-term game, but you
exactly.
can narrow it
Exactly.
down to like what makes you happy and what lights your soul up.
Exactly. And I think that's really different for everybody. Sorry, the sun is,
Yeah, you got a
I don't know.
beautiful sun glare coming in. It's
I
lovely.
know.
Like a filter.
What? Hold on. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, maybe I'll just tilt. We'll see.
You're good.
There we go. We're good. Honestly, to fully be transparent, like talking about outfits, right? I like I used to be defined by like, oh well, like this is what this, like just from like, accounts or like their cute little outfits, right? And then like I kind of got caught up in that. And then I realized like, wait a minute, what makes me feel comfortable might not be this person. And what makes me feel good might not be what makes you feel good, right? Like at the end of the day. So really staying true to yourself and listening to those thoughts and instead of listening to other opinions, because I mean social media is just a highlight reel. But the amount that we actually think that is it is not on our minds nearly as much, and I think it really,
Yeah.
we have to remind ourselves like, people are putting up what is good, but you have no idea what's going on behind closed doors, that you might be judging your closed doors based on what you're seeing on a physical level.
Yeah. That's something that like definitely sits in my head because I have a physical service auto detailing business,
Hmm.
but I also have online business coaching
Hmm.
business where I help women start their LLCs and uh, really launch, market, and grow. But I have an
Hmm.
Instagram account dedicated to talking about that and
Hmm.
how, beneficial it is to have a small business and own a small business and have these skills. And
Yeah.
I try not to get in my head because marketing is marketing, but
Yeah.
like it's not, I feel weird being in a position where you do have influence on someone, and it's like,
Mm.
I think there's like a fine line. Like, it's really important to have influences because I think it's important to
Mhm.
see what's possible out there. You want to see the
Yes.
outfits, you want to be inspired, you want to know what's available to you. But there's like a fine line of someone telling you what you need to do versus you deciding for yourself. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's like a weird fine line that I feel like I definitely experienced in my own marketing and my own content. Is like, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm here to share my experience of how this has changed
Mhm.
my life. But yeah, just talking about that and being of influence, I don't care if it's to one person or to millions of people, it's a weird
Mhm.
position to be in.
I can definitely understand. I mean, being in more like an authority figure, right? It can feel intimidating. And I think continuing, as you just stay authentic to you, it just you're being authentic, right? And I think if you are, just like what you're seeing as well, inspiration, right? If you are continuing to see inspiration and providing inspiration, then it's not as bad. But yeah, the minute that you're no longer maybe being inspired by other people's content, for example, that's where I feel like you need to kind of take that switch. But I do think there is a line, right? Because we do need to be shown what is possible. We do need to kind of be like, okay, that can be what we can get to. But I think there's a line of judging yourself. Of you're not 5 steps ahead, but you're still at step one, and being kind to yourself.
Yeah, and what's right for you? Like, well, is that really what you want? Like I said, that's the thing with like social media. Sometimes it can get in our heads of like, you're obsessing over those outfits, but you're like, well, do I really need them? Are they really going to benefit my life? Are they really going to make me feel better? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I always say I love social media. Like, I have been obsessed with social media for years. I don't know why. I don't know why I love to share my story. I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up so introverted that I was so shy that I never talked when I was little. That's always what I think. I'm making up for it now. But then creating Rad Chicks and really like,
Mhm.
as much as it's an online community, some of my best friends that I talk to on the daily across the
Yeah.
country, I met through this community. And so I am really
Mhm.
passionate about what positive benefits it can create for you in your life
Exactly.
and how it can push you out of your comfort zone and introduce you to new people if you let it to,
Exactly.
which you just put up a post on your own personal page. By the way, is your personal Instagram page public now?
It is
Okay.
public now.
So yeah, you just put up that post of what was that point of view? You decided to like start saying yes to new things
Yeah.
and like this is your life
Mhm.
now. And yeah, like that's what I would just want to create for so many women is like,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of communities that do that, but I think everyone has a different personality and who they connect with. And I think
Exactly.
that's the cool thing of our community. It might be for some, might not be for others.
Mhm.
But the ones that are into it, just helping them live their best lives.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing. Sometimes, like just say a regular Instagram account, it might be scary to message them. Where if it's through our community, that's where it just kind of provides, I don't know, like maybe like a more safer entry, right? To like want to connect with other like-minded women. So I
Yeah.
feel like on that part of it, because sometimes, talking in person, like sometimes at the track, I'm like, oh, cool, like this girl's riding. And, I go and talk to them and everything. But I feel like on social media, it's just kind of easier because then if you're close by, then you've already kind of broken the ice, like through messages and kind of know each other a little bit more. So I feel
Yeah.
like providing that and showing other women, hey, like if, our community can, do this, you can too, providing that inspiration and empowerment and, just a welcoming vibe. And
Yeah, I've had a lot of women. So we've had women like come to events
Mhm.
totally alone or
Yeah.
bringing their boyfriend because boyfriends, husbands are
Mhm.
always welcome because I think
Mhm.
I've been to events and not dogging on any of them. I totally understand the like women's only vibe that they want to create, but sometimes you don't
Mhm.
want to go to an event because maybe you are a little intimidated, or maybe you want to have that
Mhm.
security blanket of your spouse or your husband or your
Yeah.
boyfriend, or maybe it's just not safe to travel across the country by yourself with a dirt bike. Like, what
Yeah.
if you get hurt? Then what? I'll tell you, my husband got
Mhm.
hurt 3 hours away. Do you know how much of a pain in the butt that was, trying to get the camper home?
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
who's going to load the bikes? Like, you know, luckily you have the whole community, but it's, you
Mhm.
know, sometimes it's just not safe. But point being, we have had women show up on their own, show up not knowing anybody, show up never having touched a bike in their life, and like ride a downhill mountain bike. And it's cool to see. And when you can
Mhm.
show up in that environment knowing that you're going to be welcomed and you're not going to like be ignored or
Exactly.
be standoffish, and you know,
Mhm.
it's yeah, it's a good feeling.
Exactly. And starting from scratch, right? Like you can be completely a beginner if you want. Or, you could be more advanced. And I think that itself, will really it evens out the numbers, right? Because the more experienced people can kind of help, our more beginners and everything. But I mean, I'll be honest, I can't load my bike by myself. I cannot get my dirt bike into the back of my truck by myself. Can't do it.
That's why
So
I
for
have a little
me,
van.
yes, we've been thinking about a van, I will say, because, definitely could be much easier. But, I really enjoy that as well, being able to bring your partner as well, because I feel like I'm a little bit more out of my shell, when my fiance is around compared to, being a little bit more like, oh, I'm alone. So I'm about that as well.
Yeah. Sounds like we're going to have some events.
I know, I know.
No, I think we have a lot of things that we want to do here with the
Mhm,
community, and we always love to hear from you guys. So I'm
mhm.
currently in Connecticut for the summers. I say typically because I can be anywhere, but most often I'm in Florida a lot in my winters. Utah, California, Arizona, Texas, kind of all over the place. But
Love it.
tend to spend a lot of time in the South, and then Jen's in North Carolina.
Mhm.
So we are East Coast girls out here.
We are.
Sometimes it feels a little isolating because all the women, it seems like there's so many women out west, where the mountains
Mhm,
are,
mhm,
where there's, OHV, plenty of places to
mhm.
ride, and we just don't have that. Well, you have a lot more probably in North Carolina area than
For
we have
sure.
in Connecticut, but
Yeah,
it feels a little isolating out here sometimes on the East Coast. And I know a
I
lot of
could
women
definitely
feel that
understand
way,
that.
especially
Mhm,
out
mhm,
west. Out in California, they've got vet tracks, so like they're very
mhm.
accommodating to the newer riders, and we barely even get our own, ride practice session on a track. It's
Right.
intimidating. So,
Mhm.
anyways, we are East Coast girls, and I think I was really just saying that we're spanned kind of on the East Coast, but totally different
Mhm.
areas for anybody that is out there and wanting to connect. That's where we're at.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like bringing on some events through the East Coast will be super fun, and, who knows the opportunities that will maybe bring us out west, or, I think relaunching this podcast is gonna be so much fun, and, as we bring on some people as well, it'll be really fun to listen to their stories, and yeah, just evolve the community and grow again.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at, guys. We wanted to definitely get on here, introduce ourselves, reintroduce the podcast, and let you know that we're officially back. We are back in
We are
business.
back.
And yeah, we're excited to bring the community back to life, maybe in a similar manner, maybe in a whole different manner.
Mhm,
It's definitely a talk back and forth, and we are always open to hearing what you guys have to say, what you want to
mhm,
hear, what you loved, what you love to see. And
mhm.
we'll keep you posted as things continue to update. But one thing for sure is this podcast will be a regular occurrence. And I know we just wanted to like get on and do this, but we are for sure going to
Mhm.
do it at least twice a month, and we'll keep you posted on if we end up doing it more.
Yes, exactly. So exciting. And thanks everybody for tuning on in, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Let me just stop recording.
Perfect. I'm gonna run to the bathroom really quick. I drank my whole coffee and I